the economy, world affairs, politics, social media affecting everything that we do. And I think of today's teens and like how much they're up against, like, and how much comparison and exposure to so much more information, like good, bad, or indifferent, has to be affecting their psyche. How do you kind of compare? We got to still have a childhood and like an early adolescence where social media was just starting to become part of the social fabric. How much of what you're helping teens with is relating to like their online existence? Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. I'm so excited to have good friend and neighbor on the pod. Welcome, Shannon.
I know. Hello, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
I know. At some point I'll figure out how to do like a 2-person rig at the studio, but for now we're still virtual, so we're making it work. Yep. For those who don't know you, could you tell us who you are, what you do, and who you help?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Shannon Keating, and just like Michelle, I'm here in Cardiff in North County, San Diego. And what I do, I am a life coach and also a fitness coach for girls from 11 years old all the way through their teens and early 20s. I also co-founded a nonprofit here in San Diego for girls. We focus on social emotional health, and we also focus on fitness. So we're all about just supporting girls holistically in the areas of self-love, body image, relationships, friendships, confidence. And that's pretty similar to the work I do in my day-to-day life. I also work with adult women in general, but I do retreats, I do one-on-one coaching, I do intuitive readings, I do public speaking. I think Michelle and I will talk about. I'm the president of a Toastmasters club here. So a bunch of different things, but ultimately my core passion is just empowering young women and girls to genuinely love themselves, build really healthy relationships, understand who they are, understand what they're passionate about, and just be the best version of themselves day to day.
Did you always know you wanted to do this? Like, what was your background? And did you feel like you had that kind of support growing up? Like, what kind of led you to this line of work?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think they call it what the hero's journey of you
Yep.
end up teaching what you go through. And my journey is really interesting. I went to this really cool alternative women's networking thing last week. And so I got an opportunity to sit in front of a room of women or around a dinner table and share more about my journey with therapy. And it just helped me connect the dots as to a little bit more around why I'm aligned with this work, because what I do is very similar to therapy. It just has more of a life coach, holistic lens on therapy and without all the red
Sure.
tape of therapy. But
Sure.
it's so similar. I'm providing a safe space and a space of empowerment for individuals. And I started therapy, and this again was what I shared last week, at a really young age.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure, a kindergartner in
Oh my
therapy.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So the journey started young for little Shannon, who had a lot of big feels, was pretty sensitive. Change really impacted me. And I think my parents just had the self-awareness to realize they didn't really have the tools to help me. And so they would put me in therapy. And I remember, yeah, kindergarten, I was in therapy. Second grade, I was in therapy. Fifth grade. And then again, really in middle school, I was in actually a group therapy program with a bunch of other middle school girls. And then throughout high school, and then it was a requirement. And it makes me sound like such a effed up kid,
No.
which I'm not, but going into college, it was a requirement of my parents. Okay, if we're going to send you away, you have to see a counselor
Yeah.
or a therapist.
Yeah.
And it was just because of the different things I went through. So I struggled with my mental health. I really struggled with food and body image. So I had an eating disorder in high school that was pretty bad. And that was a big reason why college, my parents were like, whoa, you're just starting to heal. And now we're going to send you off to be
Yeah.
on your own. We need to make sure you have support. So
Yeah.
there's just different things that I went through as a kid, being someone who has a lot of deep feels and sensitivity, and again, is impacted by change. And I just was really impacted by the whole pressure to be perfect as a high schooler. And I wanted to get perfect grades. I wanted to be super skinny.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have a boyfriend. I wanted to be liked. And a lot of that internal pressure turned into depression and other complications. So I was in and out of therapy. And there was actually one therapist I'll share in high school. Her name was Jamie. And I really connected to her. And she was the first therapist that really helped me understand that my eating disorder at the time was rooted in emotional issues, or there was just like an emotional root to it, an emotional component to like past childhood pain and different messages I absorbed from my household and women in society in general. And so like where that was coming from. And she helped me a ton, just connect the dots and open up and be vulnerable. And I just remember really needing that type of support. And I wasn't opening up to my friends. I was not opening up to my parents. I remember my friends would ask me about it because, of course, they noticed I was struggling and I would just deny, deny, deny. I didn't want to show my messy, vulnerable feelings. And it took me a while to show my messy, vulnerable feelings. That wasn't until after college that I really started to open up that part of me. So anyway, there was just a lot of things that I went through, and I had that female support in high school that really stood out to me. I always babysat. I always was a camp counselor. I've always had a connection with kids. So then I started volunteering for Girls in the Run when I was first building my career after college. And one thing led to another. And I realized, okay, I don't necessarily want to be a therapist, but I discovered life coaching and I worked with some life coaches after college, really resonated with that and just decided to go into this field. And then after a few years of working with adults, realized I want to help past Shannon and I want to help people at a
Yeah.
younger age. And I'm just so passionate about working with girls. I connect really well to youth. I think sometimes
Hmm.
I get along better with kids than I do adults sometimes. So I just wanted to bring everything that I was bringing to adults, everything that I had learned and grown through, and just help girls earlier on, and then especially help women in those years, kind of in college and post college, when you're questioning everything and you're just starting to want to heal and grow true confidence, but you're also trying to figure out what your career needs to be and how to make money and how to live on your own and how to be happy. And there's just a lot of question marks. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what led me to this field.
No, I think it's so interesting because I think you and I have like a similar upbringing in that like I also felt a lot of that pressure, like oldest daughter for me, and then also like being from a big family of girls. But even when I've been talking with Eric, who we both know about his rebrand, he said, yeah, I always joke that like being an entrepreneur is kind of its own exercise in self discovery because like self love and like finding your way in the world is so parallel to being a business owner. And like you have to ask yourself really hard questions a lot of the time. So I think maybe for the people listening to this podcast, we can kind of think about how humbling it is to be in charge of yourself, like to be a creative entrepreneur, to bring your services and your gifts and your talents and your treasures into the world. Are there like similarities that you see? I know you say you're working mostly with younger people, but what are those themes and kind of those like maybe limiting beliefs or common roadblocks that you see with even just young women who we know like developmentally are so far ahead of their male counterparts in a lot of ways, but where does that how does that, if not resolved or not addressed in a younger years, then impact you when you're our age, when you're in your 30s or 40s or beyond?
Yeah, so like I hear a couple questions in that, and
Yeah,
the first is and it's like it's so interesting because I think fundamentally when we boil it down, it's not all that nuanced and different.
sure.
It's the not enoughness.
Yeah.
Just to simplify, we can go into, okay, some people it's I'm too much, and some it's not enough, and some it's what's wrong with me. But ultimately, if we just make it simple and lay it out there, there's this questioning around our intrinsic value and our
Mhm.
worth. And then that shows up in social anxiety, that shows up in either I'm not enough, and so I'm not even going to try,
Yep.
or I'm not enough, so I'm going to constantly be trying to prove myself. And I really see a lot of those patterns, or I'm not enough. And so I'm going to constantly be trying to perfect myself. Right. So it can show up in these different ways, but fundamentally it's, again, there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm fundamentally flawed. I'm broken. And it's just that harsh inner critic and the questioning around our own worth. And then that, I mean, if we can start addressing that at a younger age, my theory is you're going to get into healthier relationships. You're
Yeah.
going to pick a career path that actually lights you up versus feeling pressure from your parent or society, or not even going after your dream because you don't feel like you're good enough. You're going to have a healthier relationship with food and your body and with health and just taking care of yourself. You're going to feel more connected to your own needs. So there's so much that if we start to chip away at that, and it's not going to happen. I mean, you're not going to work with a life coach for 6 months and all of a sudden feel enough for the
Sure,
rest
sure,
of your
sure, sure,
life. It
sure,
doesn't
sure.
work that way. It's like we're constantly working on it. But if you can start chipping away at it at an earlier age and get different tools to work with that part of you, I call it your inner mean girl when I work with younger girls. When we can start to work with that part of ourselves and come into the truth of, okay, I am enough and I am valuable. Therefore, I can build relationships that reflect that. And I can actually do what I want with my life. And I can maybe travel, or I can pursue this career, or I can become an entrepreneur, or whatever it is, right? We can build that self belief. I just think then the world's your oyster. And there's so many more empowering choices you make from feeling you're enough versus feeling all of the lack and judgment and
Totally.
perfectionism.
And we go through it in seasons, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing a lot of that reflecting as well of like, I spent most of my 20s feeling very abundant, like feeling super
Yeah.
busy and super motivated. And I got a lot of like, I guess, kudos and recognition for doing as much as I did so young. And now that I've been like at it for a while, I feel like it's so crazy because I feel like I'm hitting a confidence like lull.
Yeah.
Like maybe I felt like early, like I haven't felt since my teen years of like, oh, do I know what I'm doing? Like, is this all going to work out? Like, I don't know. And I think there's a lot of factors at play too. So, like, with again, back to the entrepreneur thing, is like the economy, world affairs, politics, social media affecting everything that we do. And I think of today's teens and like how much they're up against, like, and how much comparison and exposure to so much more information, like good, bad, or indifferent, has to be affecting their psyche. How do you kind of compare? Like, I think because we're the same age, so we got to still have a childhood and like an early adolescence where social media was just starting to become part of the social fabric. How much of what you're helping teens with is relating to like their online existence?
That is such a good question, Michelle, because I was actually just earlier today, I had a phone call with, because I work with girls, I always work with the parent, and the parent's
Yeah.
paying for the daughter to get the coaching. And I was talking to a mom who her daughter's 14 years old. And she was just saying about how they just got her daughter a phone. She's not allowed to have social
Hmm.
media. There's all these boundaries. And I see this dynamic in a lot of the girls I work with between 12 and 15 years old, where their parents are doing their best to like keep the phone and social media away from the kid as long as possible. But they can only really go up to maybe 14, 15 before they have to just let the girls be on social media and have phones and be in the group chats, because otherwise, they wouldn't fit in and belong in the culture that they live in right now, especially here in
Yep.
San Diego. Everyone has a
Yep.
phone. They're all in Snapchat. They're all in these group text threads. And so I always tell the parent that, then I go to the girls and I say, hey, your parents are doing you a favor, because
Yeah.
I I have to watch out for how addicted I am to my phone.
Oh,
I start,
same. Same.
yeah, it's like I feel bad because of social media. I have to work on my boundaries. I have to delete the apps off my phone. Like, you girls are lucky that you have parents that care so much, that are trying to help you manage this, because when you're 15 or 16 years old and your brain hasn't even fully developed, you're going to have a
Totally.
really tough time not comparing, not going on YouTube shorts, not going on Instagram, Snapchat, all these things, getting caught up in group chats where people are cyberbullying each other. Like, it's really
Yep.
big and bad. So anyway, I tell them that. But what I see a lot of is the not enoughness being fueled by the comparison, by
Yep.
the makeup tutorials, by the skincare marketing that's happening. I mean, we were talking the other day about all of the peptides that are being
Hmm.
marketed and targeted. I mean, God forbid these girls are seeing ads like that, but they definitely are seeing these 13-year-olds with their full skincare routines, giving them YouTube demos on how to have their skincare perfect
Totally.
and their nails perfect. And it's really addicting, and they can just be in their room on their phones. They call it brain rotting, and just scrolling and brain rotting and just being exposed to all of this stuff. And then how I see it is there's a lot more anxiety happening. There's a lack of social skills. Their attention spans are really small. And I've noticed that this group of girls, when we work with them in a group, we constantly have to work with their short attention spans. So there's a lot that I've noticed. I'm sure teachers notice this a ton too. I know parents notice it. So it is really impacting girls. And I think it's just a matter of bringing it back to education, explaining, parents having boundaries set for the girls. My role really comes to, okay, give them tools, try to help them understand that the grass is always greener. This is fake. It's not real. We have to talk about your own boundaries with it. I mean, I even worked with a high school girl who's 16 last week, all about, okay, your after school routine, you've got these 2 hours and you're spending an hour of it just brain rotting on your phone. And genuinely, like, how do you feel when you do that? And what are you watching? And how can we not completely take it away from you, but bring in a boundary where you do it for 20 minutes and
Yeah.
then you put your phone down across the room and you take a shower and you do more productive things that are going to genuinely make you feel good. So I think it's tough because there's this cultural norm and this desire to kind of like belong and connect and be in
Well,
that
and it was
world.
sold to us as such. It was sold to us as
Yeah.
a way to connect to each other, and I think so much of this is parallel to even just being an entrepreneur and being on the internet now.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm not seeing the content of the people I've opted in to see anymore. I'm seeing the content that's being sponsored to me, that's being pushed to me, of people on nicer vacations with more expensive clothes and bigger houses and da 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 da. I'm not seeing my peers anymore. I'm
No,
not
I
seeing my
know.
peers. I'm also seeing, if anything, I'm seeing my competitors' stuff more because
Yeah.
I'm like, then that leads into the whole imposter syndrome of like, oh, well, this person got a cooler client doing this thing and they're at this event, but you're not seeing I mean, I've been in business for 12 years. The 80% of people who've since closed down their business, who
Yeah.
like couldn't make it work, obviously you're not going to get on social media and broadcast that. So it is
Mm-mm.
kind of that, like, it's understanding. And it's, I think, again, it was like social media was sold to us as this connection tool. And for a long time, it really was. Like, I got so many of my great clients and so many great friends and interesting people
Yeah.
and podcast guests from Instagram. And now, right before this podcast, was talking to my mom, she as well with her business. And now we're like, we're not getting any leads from social media anymore. So you're like, okay, well, now what am I supposed to do? Because I was good at that. And so now it's like, okay, how do we reconsider the time spent? But I totally relate to that, like, oh, I'm going to spend an hour rotting on my phone because in my brain, I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing it for work. Like, I have to be on TikTok for work. I have to be on Instagram for work. The amount of time I spend versus the amount of content I contribute is so lopsided right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know, like, how do you kind of get back to those boundaries, or what are you prescribing? I know you said, like, hey, like, let's look at this time spent and figure out what else you can do that are productive. And I know that there's so many like self-help and wellness and da 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 da, like prescriptive things that we can be doing. But what are the things that you found either for yourself or that in working with these girls really works to kind of rewire that? Because I'm the kind of person that's like, okay, if I can finish this task, I'll reward myself with 10 minutes of scrolling. And I even thought to myself, like, I gotta start thinking of some rewards that don't include being on my phone.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like we have to actually just examine it and unpack it and look at it. And I think it was a month or two ago, I got really honest with myself and with everything politically and just, yeah, like the comparison that can happen with social media. I was like, whoa, I actually just like need a break. And I can feel that pressure too. Like, okay, well, if I'm not on this for my business and being regular and sharing things, like, is everything going to just fall apart? And it didn't. And I just deleted
Yeah.
Instagram off my phone for, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks. And I just took that space and time away. I mean, I know you just traveled. I think it does require sometimes us actually taking a break and disconnecting completely, then to revisit it with a newfound lens. Because what I noticed in that time, it just, again, it's like examining and self experimentation. The first 3 days were really tough. And then I
Mhm.
just noticed, whoa, there's so much space in my life where I just go to reach for my phone and check
Yep.
Instagram and reach my
Yep.
phone and check Instagram. And what if I just sat with my own thoughts? What if I played music? What if I listened to a podcast? What if I called a friend? What if I went on a walk? What if I took a bath? What if I read a book? Like there's so many other things I could be doing with that time outside of just working that I didn't even realize was there. So I think that can be
Yeah.
one thing of actually giving ourselves like a little detox or a break from some of these platforms to reset our dopamine and reset how we're interacting with them. But then I think to your point, we have to actually come up with a list. So a lot of times I get really creative with my clients and I think, okay, let's create an actual joy list for you and let's get clear on for you, Michelle, or my client who's 17 years old, what are some things you could be doing with your time that actually maybe they're not as like sexy and dopamine addicting as going on Instagram and getting that
Right.
quickness, but
Right.
actually in the grand scheme of things, these are going to connect you to yourself and other people and just make you more fulfilled. So it could be
Totally.
baking, it could be art and crafts, it could be going on walks, it could be scheduling a lot more things with friends, it could be finding podcasts or audiobooks. So it's coming up with an actual tangible list, because I feel like then when the question mark comes in and we're not going on our phones, we can go to the list and we can see tangibly what can I even do with this time. And it makes it just
Right.
a lot easier than if we just take it away and then we were question marking, okay, what do I fill this with? And then it
Yeah.
also is the last thing I'll share. It's just the self-awareness, and it's being honest with ourselves. So I'll have girls just be honest. Like, how do you actually feel after you spend an hour on your phone? How do you feel when you're watching this? How do you feel about this? Like, what thoughts come up? How are you feeling? Because for me, when I see all this advice coming in from other people and all of these highlights and everyone sharing what's amazing in their lives, I actually feel crappy about myself.
Hmm.
And that's not to say there's anything wrong with me. It's just, this is genuinely how this makes me feel. So then I can step into my power around it and be like, I don't want to feel that way. But maybe going on a walk with you, or
Yeah.
listening to a podcast, or sending a voice note to a friend actually fills me up and makes me feel inspired or productive or optimistic. So let me lean towards those things.
I just feel like so many people are existing in like a functional dysregulation.
Yeah.
Like kind of going through the motions, but knowing that things are off, and knowing, and it's also like this is a symptom of late stage capitalism and information overload and media overload, of like not getting that time to just turn your brain off, not getting that time to like
Yeah.
recharge your battery if we're constantly like and I think about it a lot of like, like your scarcity versus abundance mindset, but I also think of like how much am I consuming versus how much am I creating? Because if I'm going to consume and not create anything, that's going to be depleting. Versus like if I just create and don't consume, that can also be depleting. So like there has to be this balance.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think when we're thinking about that in the bigger picture, and like the way that things also have like a seasonal pace to them, I know for me, and I'm curious about your business, is like Q1 always starts pretty strong. Like Q1, people are excited. It's January. It's a new energy. Like things are coming up. Like people are excited. And then we kind of hit this like, it's kind of this, I kind of call it like the no man's land of no breaks, which is like March, April, May ish, where it's like, okay, it's kind of this race to summer. And then people will really fall off during the summer. And so I just had an operations meeting this morning, and we were looking at the pipeline, and she's like, we really need to close some new projects. And I was like, yeah, but historically, this is always when things start to kind of slow. So are we going to like brace ourselves for it to be slow, or are we going to try to force something to happen during this time when we know that people aren't engaged because they're burnt out from the first half of the year? Like, do we just kind of ride the natural cycle of what we know this does? And I think that that's kind of the beauty of being like a woman owned business, is like, I think we're just more attuned to that. But maybe you can share any insights you have of like kind of that shift of energy season to season, when to lean in, when to kind of force through it, or should we always just be like riding the wave?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think it's something I've really, and we talk about, I think, yeah, what you shared earlier with just entrepreneur or a solopreneur, having a business is just such a big mirror into yourself. And because also there's a lot of pressure on yourself, because you're like,
Mhm.
if I don't believe in myself and I don't go for it, nothing's going to happen. If I don't take these actions today, I can't just decide I don't want to work for a few days and expect results. They just won't happen. So there's a ton of self motivation you have to go through. There's a ton of limiting beliefs and self doubt you have to navigate. And then there's the whole, wait a second, I also have to understand what my needs are.
Yep.
And like you said, understand cycles. And I can't just be this output machine all the time, because I'm also a human being. So where is that balance and that rhythm? And for women, I think I really like to talk about your cycle. And that's how I like to view it a lot, is getting women connected to our actual intimate cycle. And then we can go into the seasonal cycle or the business cycle, and even the cycle of creation, right? There's always a birth, a life cycle, and a death. Anything and everything is cyclical. So if we can start to live in this more rhythmic, cyclical way and understand, okay, just as much as I want to work, I also have to rest, and I can create, and then I can just enjoy the creations, and we can live more rhythmically. I think it's a lot more naturally. So I would say, I mean, the women's cycle, we can very much bring it into, I guess, harmony or alignment with the seasonal cycle. There's a winter, there's a spring, there's a summer, and there's a fall. And same with our business cycles, same with the seasonal cycles. And so we can really start to attune to that. Okay, for example, winter, we slow down. Maybe
Yeah.
we journal more, we go more inward, we take baths, maybe we book a massage, we do some self care, long, slow walks, stretching, nourishing meals, meditations, like just be a little bit more and replenish. Okay, then we go into spring and the energy is building and maybe creative ideas are flowing and we're getting organized and we feel the rise in productivity. Maybe we try something new. Maybe we change up our wardrobe. We get a haircut. Then we have summer and summer again. It depends on the business, but energetically, seasonally, okay, there's a lot going on. It's very social. It's very abundant. There's a lot of energy to do. There's a lot of energy to create. And so
Like
there's a lot of
literal daylight.
output.
There's more
Yes.
time in the day.
Yes, more time in the
Yeah.
day. It's just a higher energy season. And then we go through fall, and fall's when, okay, let's reflect. Things are starting to
Mhm.
wind down. Let's see what worked, what didn't work. Let's again up the self care. Let's focus on, there's a lot of like emotions that might come up during the fall. It's a little bit more inward. So we look at it, okay, there's going to be more inward phases and there's more outward phases. And I think the same applies to business and just knowing, like you said, knowing your business's cycles. So for me, for example, the summer, I need to capitalize on the summer because
Yeah.
girls are out of school. So one, they're
Yeah.
actually, a lot of them are going to be more available to life coaching. Two, I can start to do camps and retreats in the summer. So for me, I can actually capitalize that. Winter and kind of the time around the holidays is when it tends to die down and slow down for me. But that's
Sure.
not the truth for everyone. Sometimes people are
Sure.
like, holidays are the best time for me. You just have to understand what yours are and then recognize, oh, cool. So for me, if the holidays tend to be slower, why am I hustling? Why don't I actually just take off and enjoy
Right.
winter break with my family? And in the summer, okay, cool. Let me work with that. And come spring, summer, let me be marketing. Let me put things out there and understand I'll have a few big things like my camps and my retreat in the summer that can kind of help business be more lucrative. So I do think it's thinking about things that way, but then it's
Yeah.
always the permission slip. And this is where put it in your calendar, like book a
Yeah.
massage and get it in your calendar. Or if you're going to go out to a movie or just put things in your calendar. If you have a really hard time, if you're listening to this and you have a hard time with the resting and the being, you have to kind of schedule it in. If you're someone who
Yeah.
likes the creativity and likes the output and likes seeing results, and I can be that way. So you actually have to honor the rest and then recognize too, sometimes last thing I'll share, it's been a cool experiment with myself is I recognized, okay, when you rest, you're actually putting yourself in more of like a receptive
Yeah.
receiving place. And a lot of
Yeah.
times that's when people just reach out to work with me or I get a
Right.
random sale and it's
Right.
because I'm in that receptive mode and I'm not trying, I'm just
You're not
receiving.
forcing it. Yeah.
Yes. So I think when you can see that come in, it just helps validate that part of you that's like, no, rest is not productive. It is productive. It's just a different part of the cycle.
Well, let's talk about the retreat side of it too, because we're
Yeah.
recording this. I'm like fresh off a 14-day trip to India, which
Uh,
was so
jealous.
restorative in so many ways and so motivating, like creatively and
Yeah.
visually, and just like all the senses on fire, which to me, like I'm realizing I need that. Like I need those like creative restarts. But I know with your retreats also, you get a really great opportunity to kind of go deep for a few days instead of spreading out the work over like weeks and weeks and weeks. How have the retreats what do you love about them and what do you feel like could be the next level or the next iteration? Like what does the retreat offer that's so different from what you do any other time of year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I love about the retreats, this is going to be my third retreat, I believe. Yes, my third retreat upcoming in June. And it's in Vermont this year, which is really exciting because
Nice.
I've never been to Vermont. So for me,
Cool.
I get to go to the land of Noah Khan and get to hang out
Yeah.
in Vermont. And I'm excited. So very excited for that. But what I love about the retreats is the biggest thing, and I know you've probably experienced this with travel and when you get the right group of women together and you set up the space correctly where people aren't worried about putting on a mask or putting on a
Yeah.
show or having themselves look all beautified. It really is just messy bun, comfy clothes. Please show up as yourself. And there's something really magical that happens with that of just, cool, I'm here to actually work on myself and be myself. And I don't have to pretend to be okay if I'm not okay, or I don't have to say I'm good. I can actually share okay, these are the challenging things that I've been dealing with lately in this year. These are the goals I have. These are things I'm excited about. And so it's that opportunity to get to know yourself at a deeper level. So we do different workshops that are very introspective. I do human design workshops. We do deep dive journaling workshops. So you get to actually get to know yourself at a deeper level. But then we also have just different healing components. So there's Reiki energy healings, there's sound healing. So you're kind of letting things go from the past. But then there's just an opportunity for joy. So there's outdoor activities, creative activities where you get just to be doing things that are fun and lighthearted. We're going to do popsicles and mocktails at this upcoming retreat. So I think I really like the permission slip to exhale and be yourself, and that combination where you learn, oh, I can do this deep healing work that's vulnerable and kind of messy, and I had a big cry, and then I can go and play in the lake with my friends and it can be light again. So that's something that I'm really all about, is balancing out that deeper, heavier side of life and not avoiding those tough emotions, but then being able to come out on the other end of them and prioritize your joy. I'm really big on having both. So that's something I really like about the retreats. And I think what I see for the future, I think I'd like to see if Laura and I can do a little bit of a longer one that maybe
Yeah.
is a full week experience. Maybe we do something in a different country. I think there's a lot to expand on with what we've created with Aligned Alive. And so I'm curious, okay, what if we did one extra night, or what
Yeah.
if we did one extra night in a different part of the world? I think there's a lot of beauty we can keep expanding on. But for now, I think I like what we've created.
Well, and the benefit also, what we've talked about before, is social learning. Like being in the room with people
Yeah.
that are all working towards the same thing together is not only motivating, but it's like very validating and very encouraging to be like, okay, we're all here to work on this because it's not like it's coming, you have to get vulnerable by yourself alone. You know what I mean? Or like with you and just the mentor, but it's like everyone kind of, it levels the playing field and it makes you feel obviously like not alone in your feelings because I have proof of like, here's 6, 7, 8, 9 people that are also doing that. I think something that's excited me this year, which I finally have gone to, is Toastmasters. And now I feel like a great way to kind of break myself out of the cycle is like, okay, if all that the stuff that I do is work and all the events I go to is work, and I have like work and I have friends, and like I feel like I have two very distinct buckets. But what's nice about something like Toastmasters, I feel like it's occupying this third space that I haven't been in a while, of just kind of being a student again, and like being in a room with people and like learning something and working on finessing a skill with other people that want to finesse the skill, not because it's going to make them money necessarily, like it can be related, but because it's just a skill they want to get better at. And I find that like very refreshing. So how did you find out about Toastmasters, and then how did you end up taking on leadership position at Toastmasters? Because it's also so fun to see you in your zone of genius as like in a leadership position and in something in the community. Like these are our neighbors, you know what I mean? Like these are people you'll run into. So I find that super refreshing. But talk to me about your Toastmasters journey to kind of round us out.
Yeah, of course. I love having you in that group too. I think so. Why I joined Toastmasters, I was interested before I lived in San Diego. I was living in Florida, and I was interested then, but I never actually tried out a chapter or a club. I think I researched a few of them and then it just never happened. And so when I moved here, I was really interested in meeting people. You know, you're fresh in a brand new place. I only knew a couple people. I knew I wanted to live in North County. I didn't really know many people in North County. And so I just was like, I'm going to join a gym and I'm going to join a Toastmasters club. And I stumbled across mine. And I remember that first meeting, I was like, ooh, I feel really good in this place. I feel so uplifted. I feel so inspired. These people are really good at speaking and they're all down to earth and interested in personal growth. And it was just a really cool place to be in. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. I think that was 4 years ago. And I've just been a member of this club ever since. It's definitely gone through its stages and evolutions, and people leave and people come and it ebbs and it flows. But I just learned, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so much you can learn through public speaking that people don't even realize because so many people are scared of it. And I was scared of it. I had a desire to do it, right, through podcasting and doing workshops and events and things. So I had a big desire to do it, but I was also really nervous. And probably the first 6 months, I would get sweaty palms and I'd get so much anxiety and my heart would be beating out of my chest. And I really avoided getting up there. And then it's just, you get more and more used to it. You get more and more comfortable. And before you know it, you're not scared of it anymore. You're really excited to do it. I've learned so many skills as far as just eye contact and connecting to different people, grounding myself. trying to be funny and also deep and leave a message and okay, share 3 different points and repeat them. And you just learn so much about speaking in general, even getting rid of likes and ums and things of that nature, which I still do. And when I re-listen to my podcast, I say and so a ton, but you work on it. And so it's been a really good journey for me. And then it's of course been a great way to meet people. I met one of my best friends, Scotty, through Toastmasters. I've met a handful of amazing people, again, you said in the community, which is so nice. And these are people who really care about themselves and they care about their personal growth and they care about being in community. And so you already have those values aligned. People of all different walks of life and ages. So you just meet people that you would have never normally met if you didn't put yourself in this uncomfortable situation and decide to grow your speaking skills. So that's what I love about Toastmasters. If anyone's interested and you're here in San Diego, you can definitely come check out the one that me and Michelle have been going to, North Coast Toastmasters. If you live in a different part of the country or world, I'm pretty sure it's global, you can just look for one. And they're all different. So you might have to try a few out before you find your crew. But I do think it's a really excellent program. And some people, they underestimate it because it can feel like a little old school or a little too rigid, but there's a reason why it's run in a structural way. And there's just a ton that you can get out of being a member.
I'm loving it. And I'm loving it as a way to kind of combat what we were talking about at the beginning of like, this is
Yes.
time that I would otherwise spend on my phone, probably. So to go wake up 7:30 a.m., you got to turn your brain on, you got to start doing the exercises and getting those synapses to fire, because I think it's really easy to lose. And I think COVID had a lot to do with this, like lose your ability to communicate because we're so reliant on technology and we're so reliant on our phones and now AI and all these things, where having public speaking skills and being a compelling communicator will serve you no matter what you do.
Yeah.
I think it's just universal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It definitely will. And I think it is. I love just the meeting every Wednesday morning that, again, you're not checking your phone the entire meeting. You're tangibly with real people. You have to make eye contact. You have to acknowledge people, shake hands. And it's really good for your mental health. I mean, week by week, everyone's going through different things. People are navigating separations. They're navigating things that are happening with their kids. They're navigating struggles in business. People are going through all sorts of things, yet they just keep showing up and putting themselves out there and speaking and inspiring one another. So it's been a really productive space for me.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to going to more of them. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you about what you're doing with Gemstrong or want to see what you're working on, can you tell us where we can find you, follow you, and get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is my name, shannonkeating.com. For gems, it's gemsrising.com. And then you can find all of that on Instagram at Shannon Keating. So that's probably the best place to connect with
Perfect.
me is via Instagram. And then that'll link to everything else. And you can always just message me on Instagram.
Fabulous. And your podcast, let's plug your podcast.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Unmasked and Open Hearted, and you can find it on Apple or Spotify.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Shannon. And thanks for joining us, guys. If you like today's episode, don't forget to leave a comment, send it to a friend, like it, share it, all of that good stuff. Check out the show notes for links to all of Shannon's stuff, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much, Shannon.
Amazing. Thank you, Michelle. And thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.